Good late Tuesday, early Wednesday meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, giving a look at that map across the region. If you're live, watching this, it's about 1 in the morning, and you do see a little bit of shower action in our far northwestern counties there. Temperatures warmer up that way, a little bit cooler to the south here, as we do have a little bit of moisture headed our way for Wednesday. We really desperately need it with the drought situation that we're in, with all the fire and all the burn bans being necessary here in the different parts of the viewing circle. I know we're at 55 here right now, east of Stark at about 1 a.m. Some of this action here in our southwestern Georgia zones. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on over here, and you can see around Blakely to Eufaula to Dawson, give or take. There's some light shower action, not too notable, but it is something that, can help. At least we have this drought where we, again, desperately need rain. Now, it's not an organized setup necessarily, about a 30% chance on your Wednesday of some shower action or maybe even a thunderstorm in this area here in South Georgia. As we're looking, I'll go ahead and move it over just a little bit more, and you can see what I'm talking about here. That light green area, that's the general thunderstorm risk on your Wednesday. We actually have a little bit of that. So that's something to take note of here, but not too big of a deal. It's not going to be really organized. We'll watch to make sure again in our far northern areas with a thunderstorm, maybe we get a strong one. That's not really the big story. We have to watch out for lightning though. If we don't get enough rain with this, but we get, some of that lightning out of this, then in theory that could spark some more fire activity. We had some issues, I know, in Camden County on Tuesday with some evacuations being necessary for a period. So it's just a very, hit and miss situation with these, fire scenarios breaking out, unfortunately. So we, again, desperately need to rain. The more organized system will be coming our way as we look towards Sunday. And that's when some areas could get, more than an inch of rain. Some areas in our viewing circle will get more than an inch of rain. That looks to be the storyline. Some areas, maybe more like a half inch or a quarter inch here. As I'm just kind of looking at the latest update, seeing about fog threats here. I don't see anything at the moment as I'm looking up here. I know we got 78, as we were looking toward Gainesville, Florida. As I'm riding the map out, that was the high there on that. On that, of course, your Tuesday, and we're looking there 80 degrees in Jacksonville. But it was a big contrast, so dry there. 38 to 80 in Jacksonville, 36 to 78 there in Gainesville. That really does tell the story there. Those different meat chart sites. I know we got a 78 here east of Stark. We were chilly on that Tuesday morning, not as chilly now. So those plants, you can, if you haven't been going, uncover a little bit when it warms up. It's time probably to go and uncover those now as we're looking ahead into the week, because we all had all that chilly air. We were down in the teens not too long ago, and now we're seeing temperatures approach 80 degrees or even get to 80 degrees here. As we're looking and as we're tracking things. So yeah, big change. We gotta again watch out for the fire threat though. We do got to watch out for some lightning here too. Again, the temperature storyline, we're going to have a much more organized system towards Sunday. That's not going to cool things down too much. Maybe a little bit behind it, but not too much, which I know folks do like the warm weather, but again, we have to get rain. We desperately need precip. And in terms of that model guidance here, let me show you that 0ZH triple R. We're going to put that up on the screen behind me here as we're looking and as we're tracking things. Let me go ahead and show you some of that. You'll be able to see what we're talking about here with the very latest. You see some light action there. This is around the lunch hour. So again, this is helpful when we don't get that lightning threat around here. And you see a little bit in north central northeast Florida here during the afternoon and the evening is actually when the lightning threat could, form there near I-16. I know north of our area. You see, east of Macon, we have some areas of red, which could indicate a thunderstorm or two. Statesboro to Macon, give or take. And that's around, let's see here, that's about 5 p.m. Eastern on that Wednesday, on that 11th of February, 2026. I know, quite a bit going on with Valentine's Day and then President's Day here. It's also Friday the 13th here as well, if you're superstitious on your Friday. But, Saturday there is, again, Valentine's Day. Monday is President's Day. Sunday is the Daytona 500, so I don't want to leave that out either there. That's down in Volusia County. That's outside of our viewing circle, but all the weather is connected to some degree, and we'll have to watch here to see if that rain comes in at the wrong time down there. It's hard to say right now. European models, and if the latest run's coming in now on that, but the European run, I know, was saying maybe a little bit earlier, more concerning for that, but the GFS is pretty late with all this. It's no threat at all. try to go into some of that here a little bit later, but we'll talk about Wednesday first here. You see some of this moving in, maybe a thunderstorm, a brief thunderstorm here around Tipton or Douglas there. We're talking about Tipp County there, maybe parts of Coffee County in Georgia here in the viewing circle. And then as we go ahead and progress this here a little bit north, here with that, some of that showing north of our area, and later on in the timeline around Savannah, you see some action there. This is, as we get toward the evening hours, that just kind of progresses here around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You kind of get the idea of what we're looking at here and what we're tracking in toward that weather center here with the overall meteorological picture. So, again, it's always important to keep an eye on all that here as we're giving you guys the latest, as we're updating you guys. You see, this is a little more aggressive there. Maybe a thunderstorm in Camden County. Again, we need the rain, not any lightning. So hopefully we don't get lightning with this, because if we get lightning on the edges and you don't get the rain, that sparks more fire. They could be really hard to put out. That's something to keep an eye on. Unfortunately, there Wednesday evening, we have to be very vigilant about that towards some of our southeast Georgia communities. That is around 11 p.m. Eastern time. There, it goes out of the general thunderstorm risk zone officially from SPC. But you see, this is midnight. You see some stuff maybe that was northern Columbia, then maybe western Duval. Probably more just shower. I doubt there'd be much lightning by the time it gets into north central Florida, thankfully, with this round. But just any little rain we can get is helpful, but it's not going to be enough. Some areas are a foot or more in the hole in terms of rainfall here. They need that much to get out of the drought. So this is going to take a while. I mean, it could, in some spots it may be enough, the rain I'm talking about for Sunday. This rain, not so much, but for the rain on Sunday, what I'm about to say, that's where we could end up having a storyline here where that could be enough to temporarily lift some burn bans, but it's not going to be drought busting rain here, really, as we're looking and as we're tracking things. And around Tallahassee, we have to watch out to make sure we don't get too much rain too quick there, in case some of the models have been set up for a few inches, and if we got that pretty quick, that could be an issue. We could also have some strong to severe weather toward Tallahassee. It's kind of iffy. Maybe western areas, southern areas, we South Sea. I know as we're looking here, I know we have the cool water there down toward the bay, the Appalachian Bay there, and that's it, limited severe threat further east. We'll have to watch further south too. Ultimately, in terms of further south, Thursday morning could have fog in our southern counties this morning. Pretty low chance overall, but maybe in those western counties, if we have any updates from the Weather Service offices in Tallahassee or Jackson, we'll have it above me here looking at monitor. I don't see anything, but again, we're keeping our eyes on that situation here in toward the Weather Center. I know. Let me go ahead. I'll take the general thunderstorm risk off, because we're gonna move over to the GFS, which I think the Euro's been, maybe something, this I would go with more, because it's been much more consistent about things this lately. The GFS, I mean, it has not, it's been missing some stuff here lately. We'll just put it at that. So let's get all the way there into Ward late Saturday here. Late Saturday, and you'll be able to see what this is. The GFS is the only one I can show out of the longer range models in this system, so we have to kind of go with this on this mode right now. Can't see the Euro in here, but I'll just kind of explain. This has it going through a lot more, slowly later on in the period. Euro is more progressive. Euro could, if it comes through quicker, depending on what time of day, it could lead to a stronger severe threat. But this one here, it kind of, has it taken its time, because this is 4 a.m. Sunday morning, 7 a.m., 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 4 p.m. It's really taking its time, but could have still strong severe storms in the city area in some of our counties here, our western counties before. It's more about a rainmaker. Ultimately, here as we're looking, and that's, late enough where that wouldn't interfere with the Daytona 500. Again, the other scenario is one that's a little bit earlier on in the European model. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. There's a lot of things about where a low pressure area is here that can impact our severe threat here and the magnitude, because some of the analogs are pretty bullish here as we're looking and as we're tracking things in terms of some severe potential, looking back at past events and comparing things. But we're in a La Nina right now, not an El Nino. An El Nino, if this was an El Nino setup here, be a little bit more concerned, because there are some pretty bad analogs showing up with some pretty, notable events there in weather history with an El Nino, which is one where we typically have more rain. But when we're in a La Nina here, like we are, there's an analog I know in, I believe, February 2012. That's right when we were in a drought then, and before we had a bunch of tropical rains in the summer, tropical systems. I'm saying that's going to happen this time or not, but and it was when we ended up having like some South Georgia acts in Bainbridge, Thomasville, give or take. And that's possible here too. We'll see how it kind of sets up here. Wind and hail was the storyline there, but there's some other analogs that were about tornadoes in the El Nino setups here. So there's a lot going on with this here. Looking at some of the stuff from that university there in St. Louis. Just looking at that information, just kind of trying to get an idea there of the information and comparing things, the analogs and the like here to get an idea of what could happen. So right now I'm not overly concerned. We may have to turn that logo red, but this isn't the prime setup yet for severe weather. That could change if things change in the modeling here. So don't it could be a notable severe event. I'm not saying it won't be, but it's too early right now to know for sure. And I would lean against it being notable, but I think we will have some warnings here on Sunday that we're going to have to cover in terms of at least some severe thunderstorm warnings in those western counties. So just be alert for that here. Hopefully that's all it is, and we can get just the rain and not get much ramifications here from actual severe weather potential. We're just gonna have to wait and see here. We're gonna have to monitor the situation very carefully here in toward the weather center just to make sure. This is late Sunday night. This GFS model run really has us just hanging around a lot more, which would give us some rain. So that it kind of pulls it back in even a little on that Monday a bit there. If you can see that, I'll move that over just a little because you see it still, just to the east there, kind of, with some of that accent there in the coastal waters. So we're just looking at all that. I know we're looking at all of our numbers. It's been so dry and humidity's been so low, and we've had that fire danger around here. We got to watch out when we have the higher winds and the like. As we're looking, as we're tracking things, as we give you guys the latest. I know, speaking of the latest, I know UF has basketball. Their team that won the title last year going up to Athens for that Wednesday night game against Georgia. And then FSU, they tried really hard. My Knowles did there tonight against Virginia. Just at the end, it didn't quite work out. But, LaJay Jones there, Alex Steen, and Luke Louch, just trying so hard, that team. And just didn't quite work out. I know, just trying the hardest here. But couldn't quite get it done there against the Virginia Cavaliers. The next opportunity coming up, though, for the Knowles as we look ahead toward the weekend. But, baseball, softball getting going. Softball already underway. Baseball getting going soon. And, we'll have to watch some of the weather for that for Tallahassee and the like, too. As we look ahead, it's something where it's something where we just got to have the rain. So even if baseball or racing or whatever gets messed up a little, we have to have the rain. We don't want the severe weather, and that's what we're going to look for. We're going to have some rain. We're going to look for the severe potential and see how that evolves, and I'll be giving you the latest updates on that. But let me go ahead, and I want to see the HRRR, something we hardly ever pull up, but it's something, especially when I'm on camera like this, but I'm going to pull it up because I want to see our model overlay here for our wind forecast, because with all the fire danger we have around, this is pretty important. Let me go ahead. I need to, let me move this over a little. Here we go. This is going to be in the afternoon on this Wednesday. You see winds, in general coming, across from west to east here in the area here. This is around the lunch hour on Wednesday. They're not really strong, but they're there. So that's something to be aware of. And any type of wind here is not, something we want to see here. And you can see how in the afternoon, some of these they start to have a little bit of a south to north component of bit in parts of the area toward the Big Bend, and maybe, some areas a little bit, even in Marion, maybe dipping down a little bit there. These blues and greens are indicative of winds that could be sustained there, around 10 or 15 miles an hour, give or take. Now, my scale I have it here is in knots, but I don't want to go too high with those type of numbers here. So that's still, that's noteworthy, but we're not seeing the yellows here so much. But that could still present a problem for us here on your Wednesday. So we will have to watch for that. And then I'll progress this on. You see some of the arrows go away, and that's what we want to see, because that means lesser wind speed. So that's in the night, which is where you would expect that here. It's below the scale here. But you do see some of this on that Thursday, hanging on. I know rocket launch at the last check toward Cape Canaveral Friday morning with some astronauts there. So hoping for the best with that and for the weather conditions with that. You see the wind shift from north to south here as we get in toward that Thursday. And you see off the coast, some of that, East Coast, you see some oranges, which is a little more concerning because those are winds a little bit stronger toward the coast. We don't want, again, hopefully it didn't happen, but what if you get a lightning strike, start to fire, and you have some wind around too? We would have some of that. So we gotta be really careful, folks. You gotta follow orders here about, what is in play from the local officials with burn bans. If you burn and there's a burn ban in play, that's illegal and that can lead to legal consequences. So you got to take this very serious here, is what I'm saying. You got to take it very seriously. And, that can even lead to, more than just, legal consequences. You could end up damaging your property, neighbors' properties, or even endangering people and wildlife here. So you got to take this very seriously when we have burn bans in play and these type of fire conditions, low humidity, and the like here. Again, that lightning chance isn't a huge one. It's just a wild card here that I want to let you guys be aware of here. You see the winds kind of going from northeast here to southwest-ish there on that Thursday, and they're still up some, which is not exactly what you want to see here. They're not extreme, but they're not, they're still consequential. They're not inconsequential, as you see here toward Georgia. Again, this is where the thunderstorm risk is in general, on that Wednesday. So we're going to watch for all that here, obviously, in the Weather Center. And let me go ahead and pull up our drought maps now. It's the same one we had up the other day, but it's worth reiterating and reminding people what's going on here with the overall meteorology. You can see that red zone there. That is an extreme drought here, folks. It doesn't get much worse. I mean, there's exceptional behind me. That's even a darker red, a maroonish color. But we're in extreme drought here from Bradford to Lodgewood, Marion, off toward the west, across the Swanee River Valley area and in the word Tallahassee as well. So, again, very concerning here, and it's not looking like a drought busting rain's on the way, but some rain is on the way for that Sunday time frame here. That would be, help, enough to push things off a little. But as we're looking here, for Wednesday, Thursday, a little bit here and there, it's not really enough, but we'll be watching, we'll be tracking. Again, just looking at the latest here from the Weather Service offices. It is the middle of the night, if you want to call it that, in some ways here, but sometimes we get updates on advisories and the like. I have Tallahassee Jackson information up. I don't see anything at this point, that's really important in terms of fog or red flag warnings, which is a fire weather warning, by the way. We had that on Friday, so I'm going to clarify that a little bit because sometimes you see it named a little bit different, but can get more of those in the future with these type of conditions. We just have such dry vegetation and all these trees. It's just a bad setup. If this was a little bit later on, even, and if it does persist a little bit later on, things could get much worse because your prime wildfire season really isn't here yet. And as we start to get these warmer temperatures in play, that could be very consequential. And it might not be where you can get a wildfire under control in one day, and people might have to stay overnight, at another place, have to evacuate and be gone for overnight. And in some cases, sadly, we hope this doesn't happen, but in some cases, obviously some homes could end up being lost here in wildfire situations in the weeks and months to come if we don't get the necessary rainfall. So it's very serious here. We got to take it seriously here in toward the Weather Center. And in terms of evacuating from wildfire, I know it may be a little small here for you guys to read, but just whenever you are notified here about being, under an evacuation order, you got to just take that action immediately here. This is some information from last year in California, NOAA, CAL FIRE, and the like, but most of it still applies around here. Just be ready, have your supplies ready, just in case that you need, or at least have, the idea of what you need to take with you in the back of your mind. Have, that plan in play. What road you're going to take? Let's say one road is blocked by the fire. What is your alternative route here? How are you going to get out to try to survive in a wildfire situation? If one road is blocked, and sometimes there's only one road in and one road out in some parts, and that can be very, serious and very concerning. So, just got to be thinking about, ways to, evolve here in terms of, trying to survive here. You have, creeks and ponds and whatnot, and a last ditch effort to survive, of course, and that's something you really don't want to have to do. But if you have to do it to try to get away from the fire, I mean, it's just the worst case scenario to try to be, doused there, by the oncoming flames, and in a way there, or really prevent you from actually getting burnt to begin with. And, obviously, if we have more wildfires, we'll have air quality concerns here, and the like. I know, just thinking about, Hawaii years ago, wasn't that long ago, but a few years ago there in Hawaii, they had a situation with all those terrible wildfire scenarios evolving there, and it was a one where folks had to just try to jump into water for survival there. That's kind of what I'm thinking about. Hopefully, it didn't come to that around. Hopefully, we get the rain. We don't get enough of that wind to be problematic in the days and weeks to come here. So, again, just be, ready to evacuate, at a moment's notice. Hopefully, it doesn't happen. But, it's something where even, we don't have like a uniform system for alerts for area like we do severe weather. So it's not something I can just jump right in with and tell you about either. It might be something you learn from emergency management in your county, or just folks knocking on your door, firefighters even, just telling you to get out immediately there. But something, along those lines is very important to be mindful of, obviously. So, as we go ahead and look here, Georgia drought monitor, you can see our storyline there is not one that's looking too good either. Had fire concerns like in areas there around Douglas, for instance, here lately, and Camden County as well here. So, we have severe to extreme drought in our Georgia counties. It's not a good picture, except for a little bit of coastal Glen. It looks like maybe even in the Camden, but they just had a fire concern on Tuesday. So, everybody's in some type of concern level. Just gotta hope for the best here and hope for that rain. Pray for that rain here, and that's all we can really do. I mean, in the general sense, of course, you can take care of things around your home and the like to try to prevent them from catching on fire and the like. Obviously that there's already a wildfire out there. It just depends on how fast it's moving. There's some different variables in play. So, again, you got to be very careful here. There's burn bans in play, including where we're at here in north central Florida in Bradford County, and there's burn bans across the region. But our precipitation forecast, there is some rain on the way. It's not really enough, but it's better than the alternative. It's better than being a empty map here with in terms of the colors for our area, which was kind of the case here last week when I was doing this. So this is better than the alternative as we look and as we track things here, as we look at everything, all that latest information. You can see here around Stark where we're at here. This is showing on the order of about 3/4 of an inch there of rain as we look ahead into toward the timeline, 3/4 to maybe an inch. As we're looking, you see the word Tallahassee, though. Some areas closer to 1.5 inches, southwest Florida, maybe closer to 2+ inches there in some spots. That is more, that much needed rain. It's not enough, not drought busting, but it could kind of, help us a little bit till maybe we get a bigger rainfall event. You can, help us a little bit here and there. We'll take every little bit we can get, but we really need, some areas need a foot or more, not at all one time, or that'd be very bad with flooding, but, just over weeks and months, you just, the deficit here is very severe in some areas here, some communities with that rainfall. We're just so dry, everything's so dry. We got to have that rain. It's very serious, and at least this is better than the alternative. It could present a chance for some strong to severe storms and some lightning. So that's the caveat here with the lightning and even the strong to severe storms. Obviously, that's more. Not everybody's gonna have a strong to severe storm. Pretty much everybody's gonna see rain though, which is good. But a lot of folks will have lightning too, and that could be a problem if you don't get enough rain. I'd be more worried about the earlier events here today, later on Wednesday, a small chance. And if you get lightning, you might not get enough rain. If you get lightning coming up, well, you might get enough rain, but it also could be if it's near the end of the event, and it might take a little while to kind of find out about here that scenario. So this is kind of the storyline. I'm going to step off real quick and see you guys. It's just a little bit better seeing the coastal waters as well as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things here, what's going on. Trying to give you guys the very latest on that, obviously. Let me remind you guys that what we're covering here are 62 counties. We're always trying to give you guys the latest to protect you, protect your friends, protect your family, obviously. That's what it's all about here at Cloud Weather. Trying to keep everybody safe here and informed in these type of situations. I've been over every tornado warning storm that moved through our 62 county area since late 2019. So it's all about commitment here at Cloud Weather to you, your friends, and your family. Not on all platforms since then. On YouTube, we started that there summer of 2020. But, Facebook was, and Twitter there early on. At one point, we were doing at the very beginning one, stream at a time based on what part of the area. I know Facebook especially, now they have it where after 30 days all the streams go away. But I have a lot of the archives, but of course not everything's available to like show you guys here, look back at, or for you just to look back at yourself. But most of it is for me internally and the like here. But the streams on Facebook, they don't last like they used to, but on YouTube, they're hopefully forever, not just 30 daes with the live streams. That's it's automatically deleted now. It's a new Facebook method there. But again, this is how it is with that website. But as we go ahead and look here now, I'm gonna come back on camera again, just trying to break some of that down for you guys. I do want to talk about here. I do want to talk about our severe chance on Sundays, mainly the western zones right now. That could change. Might have to watch downstate some. We'll see. I don't know if that's going to set up down there or not, but western areas what we're going to say right now. Tallahassee and about Thomasville West is where there could be a tornado watch on Sundays. Depends. There's really a lot of uncertainty, not enough confidence. I hesitated even putting this in here. I didn't want to get too deep into this. This may not even evolve here, but there's a chance we could get a tornado watch and or tornado warnings. So just got to be prepared. Hopefully, it'll be more about severe thunderstorm warnings here, or less than that even would be more ideal, obviously. But it looks like we're gonna probably have something. But we certainly don't want tornadic activity. We got to have the rain, though. We have to have that here. Desperately need the precip, so we'll take every little bit we can get of that. But the severe weather we don't want to see. But of course, just with your mobile home, you would rather not be in that here if you're in a tornadic scenario. You really want to inside a sturdy site-built structure. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Protect yourself from flying debris by putting on a bicycle helmet, football helmet, or baseball helmet. So important there as we're looking and tracking things. I know, again, we're always watching things across the area that I was just alluding to. We're in Bradford County, and then the fog safety tip's so important when there are dense fog advisories, even if there's just fog around. You got to be aware of the hazardous driving conditions due to low visibility here. Nothing yet that I see on my screen above, but in terms of anything like that. But just slow down and give yourself extra time to reach your destination, not in our local counties anyway. Here, Jacksonville, Tallahassee areas that I have up. But make sure your vehicle is as visible as possible. Other vehicles, but loading the headlights and leaving plenty of room between you and the vehicle in front of you. Let me check to see if there are any questions or comments here from any of the viewers at home that are watching right now. It looks like if you're on YouTube watching, I appreciate you tuning in there and just trying to give everybody the latest information here. Nothing too crazy right now, but we have to gotta watch out for fog and smoke mix, and that's actually a more of a concern. If you get a fire or the smoke lingering and you get a fog, that can really create a mixture. We've had it evolve before here. I know we've had no visibility in Eck and Putnam County recently. We had a terrible situation about 15 years ago on I-75 that led to catastrophic scenario with multiple fatalities with cars just all coming together there, and a terrible situation, a pile-up scenario there about 15 years ago. So Payne's Prairie is what I'm talking about. So you just got to be really careful, with this fog concern. If the fog and the smoke mix, that really can lead to a very serious set of consequences here that can be deadly even, if you're driving late at night, early in the morning, or, in the middle of the night even. As we're looking here, though, we do have that extended forecast now for everybody to show you guys. I know on that Wednesday there, 30% chance of that rain. So we need that rain again. Could have a little lightning. Hopefully, it's mainly about rain. 20% on Thursday. I know Wednesday had gone up a little from what I had previous, which is good, but not enough. You see these little chances rolling out enough. Sunday could be helpful. Rain, we just don't want this strong a severe threat, which could evolve, but it's uncertain at this time. And then you see that Saturday. Let's not skip over Valentine's Day, of course. It looks like it'll be a pretty good day there for everybody. I know some folks will be watching that Kentucky-Florida game there on ABC. Everybody excited about that one there for college basketball. FSU basketball being action, baseball, softball, for the different schools will be an action here as well. So, Valentine's Day, a lot of different things you can do on that Saturday there to try to enjoy. 77 there, 4 to high, 52 in the morning. That's pretty nice, as long as we don't have obviously any fire concerns that, evolve and it makes it very adverse. But, Saturday could otherwise, in terms of just the actual current forecasted weather, not talking about air quality or fires, Saturday could end up being a pretty nice day out there to try to enjoy. So that's something to keep in mind here as we look towards Sunday, though. We need the rain very badly. We don't want the severe weather, but we'll take the rain, and let's go ahead and look at President's Day, that Monday there, and then we'll see you Tuesday. You see the temperature trends. They're a little bit cooler on that Monday there. A little bit of rain could linger. The DFS more so thinking that in the Euro, we do these sometimes even a little later so I can see the latest Euro. I didn't want to go too late tonight, so just tell me the latest DFS. But the Euro had been insisting here on a situation with that rain coming in earlier, which would lower the rain chance on your President's Day Monday. So important here to try to enjoy things. Got a lot going on. I mean, between Friday the 13th, we don't want to talk about that one too much, but Valentine's Day here on that Saturday, on that Sunday here, of course, the Daytona 500, and on Monday's President's Day, that federal holiday. So a lot happening there. As we're looking, Washington's birthday Monday there, of course, with that holiday, and you have Tuesday there. You see the temperature trend. You see a little bit cooler Tuesday morning. Look to see how the clouds, if they clear out, they're not around as much. We could get to the upper 40s, and you see the average highs there. As we're looking, as we're tracking things, it's a situation here. We're going to be above average with these highs. I mean, it's been so cold, but now we're above average with the highs pretty much every day here in the 70s. Some areas even getting closer to 80. That is something to take note of. Those lows there, 40s, 50s, most of those above average as well. So something to kind of bear in mind here as we're looking and as we're tracking things here in toward the weather center. So again, it's just always important to be on top of things here. We're always keeping our eyes on everything here, across the area, trying to keep you guys informed, obviously. We'll be on if there's any tornado warning storms on Sunday in our area, and hopefully we don't have that, but we could end up getting some severe thunderstorm warnings here. Too early to know what's going to really happen. Just hoping for the best with that, obviously, as we're looking ahead toward that Sunday. So, again, that's the storyline there. Let me go ahead and go back on over here toward this view. Again, you see that general thunderstorm risk there in toward Georgia. That goes all the way up to about the Charleston area there. That's some earthquake activity up there lately. Small, but just something to keep an eye on here in general, because again, hundreds of years ago we had some situations here evolving that were, a lot more serious. So hopefully not a sign of any of that to come, but it has, been something that's been noteworthy a little bit here in our meteorology lately. But as we go ahead and look here, you see Dublin, Statesboro again, some of these areas with that general thunderstorm risk going down Wednesday there. As we're looking and as we're tracking things here, see some rain. This is pretty nice rain, quite honestly. If you need it, this is not too crazy looking here on the Doppler. In general, we had a little earlier hail mixing in with that. It wasn't quite as fun. Some of these areas I backed it up 4 hours, but Eastern Kentucky, we had some different reports showing up. I'm not sure if it'll up here because it might. Okay, I won't do it like that, but earlier we had some stuff showing up. We do have some freezing rain reports and some wintry weather up here in the Northeast around Boston. You see some snowfall there if you're watching live, and around Providence, Rhode Island there, and the like. And Boston, they're not too happy about the Patriots losing, but Seattle's happy. They have a parade coming up here very soon. Up in Maine, there's some snow as well up in the north and west. As we look here, as we move across the country, you don't see too much going on here with the overall weather information showing up there right now. It's, cool, but it's not too crazy. Some freezing fog showing up. That could be an interesting storyline, not in a good way. It's still 3 hours earlier out there, so we'll have to watch that. But in general here, not too crazy, not too adverse, but they're celebrating the Seahawks out there. Sam Darnold, of course, is stepping up big there for the Seahawks. That defense, though, was the bigger story. The running game there, the MVP, there for the Seahawks. That was so great how, that part of the game stepped up. It's about in the playoffs in history. Talk about running backs, running game, really. The running game and the defense, can end up being your keys to victory. And it's sure, that was the storyline against New England. They're down in Santa Clara on Sunday. Next year's Super Bowl is in LA area there. That'll be one. Hopefully the Jags will be in there. Hopefully it'll be the Jaguars in that one in Super Bowl 61 and getting Trevor Lawrence, Cam Little, Liam Cohen, that Super Bowl title, get the whole title for the whole community here. The First Coast area would be awesome, but there's a long way to go. We got a whole off season, a whole preseason, a whole season just to get to the postseason. So there's a long way to go as we're tracking things and the like here. I do have the Jags do have their defensive, offensive coordinators back for 26. That's to be exciting as well. All the different playmakers, hoping, see how, not maybe all of them will come back in free agency. Obviously, there's always roster turnover, but we'll see how the defense, how the offense comes together for victory in 2026. Hoping, to at least get there. Maybe that would be awesome there. It's on Valentine's Day next year, 2027, that Super Bowl is. So maybe the Jags will be there. That'd be great for everybody to enjoy here, and be able to see the team in there. I know 12 to nothing, pretty late in that game the other day at the Super Bowl. So wasn't as exciting as it could be, especially, for neutral fans in some years. But hopefully it'll be Jacksonville in there for Duval and the 904 in 2027 starting off, it'll be in the January and the February there, with a very fun situation for a rated track. But as we go ahead and, just to kind of wrap things up now, we do have to, even though I want to talk about fun stuff here, we do have to be serious about that fire concern. The drought index here, the drought concern we've alluded to is a very serious storyline. We got to take that seriously here in the Ward to Weather Center because that can be hazardous and, with air quality, but then, obviously evacuations can be required. It's stuff I don't want to talk about. There's at least as bad as, severe weather is, at least we can track it on the radar. Sometimes, sometimes you can see smoke on the radar, sure, but sometimes it's a situation that's already, impacting neighborhoods before, it's sometimes by the time it really gets out in the media, it's already been suppressed because it's just so instantaneous with the actions that need to be taken on a neighborhood level with the road, just the one road here, one road there, it's something where it's not fun at all. Obviously severe weather isn't fun either, but at least we can get some rain from that, and that'll be a benefit. But fire stuff, that's about as bad as it gets in terms of, it is not something we would talk about ever on here on the weather. We've had problems on 85 in Flagler County, that terrible Friday in May, down there, the Palm Coast area, and then 98 was a terrible fire season. Just got to be vigilant here. We don't want those reruns here, repeats here of those scenarios evolving around our area. But nothing will ever be exactly the same with that. But just always, we got to get rain. We have to get rain. We got to pray for rain here at this point. Just got to hope the pattern comes together. If we start to see a shift here to El Nino, which we may here in the next couple months, and that can start to help us here and give us some dividends here in the rain department. So that's something we have to be very cognizant of here in the Ward Weather Center. Just cross our fingers here for that as we're tracking things in the Ward Weather Center. We just got to be paying attention here, though, for the fire concerns. We got to watch for stronger storms coming up. But I think we've talked about pretty much everything we need to. Don't see anything new here from the Weather Service offices right now, but we're watching in terms of, that fog potential could evolve some in some more different areas. Let me just look at that real quick. It's 1:40 a.m. if you're watching live. I don't see anything set up directly on the METARs that I can see from here right off. Visibility is pretty good. Albany, a little bit of wind out there. Tallahassee. The wind's not so much there, but the visibility is good. Cooler and Cross City, they're at 46. Right now, visibility looks pretty good. Williston there is at 45. Some of this fog, it might not be too bad, but maybe later in the night and maybe Thursday morning, we could have some in our southern counties and further down in the state. Thursday, some of the different interstates and the like. So it's such a big contrast here. Temperatures here, we have 60 St. Augustine, 55 in Palm Coast. So that's a pretty big differential here in terms of those readings on this Tuesday night and early Wednesday. Again, cooler there in the southwest counties. Southwest area, we're actually even colder. 43 there in Citrus County around Homosassa Springs there. So, yeah, it's, cool with some of that cloud cover. go ahead and put up some of our satellite view. This is why some of these areas are warmer than others. Don't have the clouds there toward Levy County and Marion County and Dixie County. And other areas you have that and even some showers in our far northwestern counties. We're in the 60s. So that kind of explains it here for everybody for wondering what's going on there at home with the overall storyline as we're looking at things and as we're tracking things here in toward the Weather Center. I'm going to check one more time for any questions here, but I think that pretty much sums it up here for tonight. Again, let me just check, make sure we don't have anything here on any of my different sources. I don't want to miss anything, obviously, here in the Word of Weather Center. Let me just check here. Do we have any new alerts? I don't see anything here. Again, just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me here on this Tuesday night and early Wednesday here as we're looking at things. And now the baseball season getting going soon. Hopefully it's going to be a great year for the Knowles. I know the Gators, they have some expectations that are pretty high as well here in 2026, and that'll be getting going soon. I know SEC baseball title will be on ABC this year, so that's exciting for teams in the Southeastern Conference, and for the Knowles here, Link Jarrett. 2026, maybe this will be the year we finally, for my Seminoles, get over the edge here and win that national title in college baseball. But we got a long way to go with that. Have a great night, everybody. Stay safe, obviously, with all the hazard I've talked about, but try to enjoy things the best you can.